In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the probe to do the tilt offset. So first step is I'm going to set up my workpiece, and typically we want to be careful when we set our workpiece on the machine. Typically you want to put your workpiece in square to the table, like with some kind of reference, so you know you're kind of close, but doesn't have to be perfect, right? So typically you would set it up so it's pretty close, but let's say you just plop something on the table and we have it on some kind of a tilt. So I have the machine tilted now out a square, just exaggerated so that we can see the rotation function. But typically you want to keep like I said, you want to keep your workpiece just squared up as much as possible. You don't want to necessarily have it on a big angle, because the probe has to, when you do this function, you have to be very careful so the probe does not hit the workpiece while it's positioning itself. So first step is we're going to deploy the probe. So we're going to come to the machine's page, turn on function if it's not already on, press the Z plus a little bit, just so a couple seconds so we know the Z is up. Hit the probe button and say OK to the prompt. And now I'm going to position the probe in front of the edge of the workpiece. And I would suggest you want to go downhill with the probe so that we're touching the high spot in relation to the orientation of the workpiece to the probe. In other words, this is the high spot to the probe, and we're going to go for 0.1 here, and we're going to go Y minus for 0.2, so it's going downhill. Okay, so MFR1, we're going to jog the machine in front of the first face for 0.1, and like I said, 0.2 will be downhill from it in relation to the workpiece to get to 0.2. So at our control, we're going to go codeless, auto tilt offset. So make note here, you cannot use the manual tilt offset with the probe. That's for just the wire and not the probe. So if you want to do it with the probe, you have to use auto tilt offset. The direction is going to be X minus. That's the direction it's going to be for the wire to hit the workpiece. The measurement dimension is the two things. It's the direction plus or minus. This is for 0.2. So it's going to touch in X but wrap it in Y to 0.2, and it's going to be, I need to go a negative position in this case because I got to go Y minus, and let's say 2 inches. So I'm going to put 2.0 in here. And an invert value, I'll put like a 1/2 inch in there just so it has a half inch. So your invert value is going to be, if you're going uphill for 0.2, this has to be a big number to give you enough clearance. So I'm just going to put a big number in there just so we watch it. But if you always use a big number here, that's a good rule of thumb. We'll turn the flush off. And if there is a rotation here already on, you may have to hit this button here to cancel it. I'm not sure if this turns it off or not. We want rotation off presently, so we have that correct. And so what we're going to do is hit the enter button, and we will, let me put the cannon back on. And so it'll touch 0.2 here, and then invert the 1/2 inch, and then come down in Y 2 inches, and then come and touch the other point. And then invert and move itself back to where we started. And if we go back to the control, we will see up at the top here our rotation angle is on, and it's 2.17 degrees. And that's completed. So at this point you would do this step first and then move on to do the corner or a hole pickup. So the rotation will be activated before you set your origin. You got to do this step first. Now, if I want to do it uphill, like that was with the workpiece downhill. So let me just do it real quick the other direction. And we're going to do codeless X minus, and I'm going to go the other direction. So if I have my probe tip at the other side of the workpiece, let's do it the other way. Let's explain how this works. So we're going to come down here in Y for point 1, and we're going to go to point 2 Y plus direction, which ends up being an uphill move. So MFR1, I'm going to position it in front of the edge. Okay. And on my machine control, I'm going to go X minus. The measurement dimension is plus. Use the plus 2 inches. Let's say plus 3 inches, just for something changed. And then invert. So I have to make sure that invert is a big enough backwards move from on point 1 so that when it reaches point 2, it's not already in contact. And I'm going to hit this button to cancel that the previous rotation. I don't want that on anymore, so we're going to use that button there. And we're going to hit the go button on the keyboard, remote control box, and we're going to do the 2 touches. There's point 1. It's going to invert, go up in Y, and then do the point 2, and then invert and back to where I started it. And then if we look at the controller, it's got my number loaded in here, 2.17 degrees. So that number is loaded back in. So your tilt is activated at this point. Now if I jog the machine, of course, if I jog Y, it follows it follows along in the workpiece. This rotation is your coordinate rotation. So if I go MFR0, I could put the probe close, and you'll see as you move Y, the probe stays equal distance away from the workpiece because the machine itself is rotated to match the workpiece. Okay, so I need to revert the probe offset. So I'm just going to press the Z plus just to move the probe up in the air. And then to revert the probe offset, we're going to come to prepare, wire position move, have this off, and hit the enter. And that will revert the probe offset. So that was over here, prepare, wire position move off, and it's back. The wire's back to where the probe used to be. Alternately, I could have, because I didn't really set a corner or an origin yet, it's just some X and Y are presently just some random numbers. I could have just hit the probe button, put the probe up, or moved on to corner pickup or hole pickup is probably what you would be doing actually. You need to now use the probe to do the corner pickup or the hole pickup.